I never questioned if my son was mine. Not once. Not in 10 years. Because there was never a reason to. He looked like me. Same eyes. Same smile. Even the way he laughed. People used to point it out. Just like his dad. And I believed that. Completely. Without a single second of doubt. Because when you love someone that completely, when you have raised them and held them and watched them grow for 10 years, the thought that something might not be true about where they came from, it doesn't find a way in. Until one comment at a normal family gathering lets it in anyway. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Nothing serious, just noise. People talking, kids running around. My wife was in the kitchen. I was in the living room with a few relatives, and my son was playing on the floor nearby. That's when my cousin said it. Casually. Like it didn't matter. It's funny, he doesn't really look like you anymore. At first, I laughed. Because people say things like that. Kids change. Features shift. Nothing unusual. But then, he added something else. Actually, he reminds me more of someone else. And something shifted. Not dramatically. Not immediately. Just a small movement. The way the ground shifts before you realize you're no longer standing on something solid. I asked him what he meant, still smiling, still expecting something harmless. But he hesitated, just for a second. Then he said a name. In the moment I heard it, something inside me didn't sit right anymore, because the name he said was someone my wife used to know very well. For a second, I just stared at him, still smiling, like I hadn't fully heard what he said. Because the name didn't belong there. Not casually, not like that. It was someone from years ago, before we were married, before our son was born. Someone I hadn't thought about in a long time. And suddenly, I was thinking about him constantly. I brushed it off that afternoon, laughed it away. Kids change all the time. Everyone moved on. Conversation shifted. Normal again. But something stayed with me. Quiet. Persistent. Because once a thought like that enters your mind, it doesn't leave. That night, I noticed something I hadn't paid attention to before. My son's features. Not generally, but specifically, carefully. The shape of his eyes. The way his smile formed. Small details. Details I had always connected to myself. But now, I wasn't so sure. I watched him for a long time. This boy I had held in a hospital room. This boy I had taught to ride a bike. This boy who had called me dad every single day of his life. And I hated that I was looking at him this way. I hated that one comment had changed something I had never once doubted. But I couldn't stop. I told myself I was overthinking. That it was just one comment. One moment. A careless thing said at a family gathering by someone who probably forgot the words before they even left the driveway. But the thought didn't fade. It grew. Slowly. Quietly. The way certain thoughts do. Not loudly. Not all at once. But in the background, underneath everything. Like a sound you can't locate, but can't stop hearing. And a few days later, I did something I never thought I would do. I searched his name. Not fully out of suspicion. Just to see. To look once, prove nothing, and put it away. That was the plan. But when I found his photo, my chest tightened. Because I didn't have to compare for long. I saw it immediately. And suddenly, that comment didn't feel random anymore. I stared at the photo longer than I should have. Hoping I was wrong. Hoping I was looking too hard. Hoping the resemblance was something I was forcing because of one careless sentence at a Sunday afternoon gathering. But it wasn't. It was immediate. Clear. The kind of thing that, once you see it, you cannot unsee. And I sat there, holding my phone, thinking about 10 years of mornings, 10 years of school runs, 10 years of bedtime stories, 10 years of being called dad like it was the most natural thing in the world, 10 years of never once questioning the thing I was now unable to stop questioning. I put my phone down, walked into the living room, and sat there for a long time, not reacting, not crying, just still. My son was upstairs asleep. The same boy he had been yesterday. The same laugh. The same voice calling me Dad. Nothing about him had changed. And yet, everything felt different. Because now there was a question sitting in the middle of everything I thought I knew. And it wasn't going to disappear on its own. I ordered a DNA test 3 days later. Privately, not telling anyone. Not my wife, not a friend. Just me and a kit, and 12 days of waiting. Those 12 days were the strangest of my life. I functioned normally. Work, dinner, bedtime routines, school drop-offs. All of it normal on the surface. But underneath, a quiet hum that never stopped. Every morning when he called me Dad, the hum. Every dinner where we sat together like always, the hum. Every bedtime where I said goodnight and meant it completely, the hum. A question I couldn't answer, living underneath every ordinary moment. When the results came, I opened them alone, in my car, parked outside the house. I read the result once, then again, not a match. I sat there for a long time, not crying immediately, not reacting the way I expected, just absorbing it. The way you absorb something too large to feel all at once. Like the information arrived, but the weight of it needed more time to find somewhere to land. Then I went inside, set my keys on the counter, and looked at my wife across the kitchen. She smiled, asked about my day. "We need to talk," I said. Something in her expression shifted. Barely, but I saw it. The way you see something in someone's face when they've been waiting for a conversation they hoped would never come. We sat at the table. I placed the results between us. She didn't pick them up. She didn't need to. "How long have you known?" I said. She looked at her hands. A long pause. "I wasn't sure at first," she said quietly. "We had been together, and he and I, it was brief. It was once, before you and I were even serious. But you knew there was a chance." She didn't answer right away. "After he was born, yes, I knew there was a chance, and I was terrified." "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked at me then, eyes full of something familiar. Not just guilt, fear, old fear. The kind that had been living in someone for 10 years. The kind that doesn't announce itself. It just quietly shapes every decision you make around the thing you're protecting. Because by the time I understood what I was looking at, you were already his father. You were already everything to him. And I couldn't... Her voice stopped. I couldn't take that from either of you. I sat with that for a long time, not accepting it, not dismissing it, just sitting with it. The way you have to sit with things that are both wrong and human at the same time. Because what she did was a betrayal. That is true. Clearly. Fully. She made a choice that was not hers alone to make. She took something from me. The right to know, the right to decide, the right to be standing in that truth from the beginning. And yet, I understood something about fear that I hadn't before. Not the kind of fear that comes from danger, but the kind that comes from having something you love so much, you build a quiet architecture of silence around it, just to keep it standing. It doesn't make it right, but it makes it human. And I was going to have to hold both of those things at the same time, for a long time. We didn't resolve everything that night. We didn't even try. There are conversations that take months, maybe years, and that was only the first one. But before I went upstairs, I stopped outside my son's door and stood there in the dark hallway for a long time. He was asleep, blanket half off, one arm thrown over the edge of the bed, the way he always slept, the way he had slept since he was 3 years old. And I stood there, holding a truth I hadn't had that morning, trying to understand what had changed. And I realized something I hadn't expected. Not much. Not in the room that mattered. Not in the hallway. Not in 10 years of mornings and dinners and homework and arguments. And the word Dad, said so easily it had become air. Biology had not made me his father. I had. Day by day, choice by choice, without ever knowing I was choosing anything. My wife betrayed my trust. That is true. And we had a long road ahead to understand what that meant for everything we had built. But my son, that boy asleep with his arm hanging off the bed, he hadn't done anything. He hadn't betrayed anything. He hadn't chosen anything. He had just called me Dad for 10 years, without hesitation, without condition, the way children love, completely and without proof. And I understood something then that I will never forget. He didn't need a test to make me his father. I needed to choose him. And standing in that hallway, with the result still in my pocket, I already had. My wife lied to me, but she was right about one thing. By the time the truth arrived, it was already too late to change what we were to each other. A father is not a fact. A father is a decision made every single morning, whether you know you're making it or not. And I had been making that decision for 10 years. I wasn't going to stop now.